Chapter 7. Previously, after successfully stealing Sela's Vane's biometric hash at the gala, Elias and his team face a critical 4-hour deadline before the key expires. With their local data destroyed and no primary communication device, they must now execute a high-stakes infiltration of the Ghost server immediately. Now, Chapter 7 begins. The red digits on Elias' cracked smartwatch didn't just count down, they pulsed like a dying heart. 85%. The biometric hash extracted from Sela's Vane during the gala scuffle was unraveling in real time. Its cryptographic integrity was dissolving under the weight of an artificial expiration timer designed to kill stolen keys before they could be used. 3 hours and 42 minutes, Elias said, his voice tight as he tapped the flickering screen. The crimson glow cast long, sickly shadows across the cluttered workbench of the Etha Core workshop. If it hits 0 before injection, Vane security traces the decay signature straight to this block. We become ghosts. Maya Lin didn't look up. Her hands moved with surgical precision, stripping insulation from industrial capacitors scavenged from Lot 404. She was building a cage, not a weapon. Then stop watching the clock and start watching the sky. I'm picking up sweep patterns on the shortwave band. Triangulation. They're narrowing the sector. Can you blind them? Kenji Sato asked. He leaned against the doorframe, already clad in grease-stained maintenance coveralls, a heavy toolkit slung over one shoulder. The former Vane engineer looked more at home in the Junkyard's grime than he ever had in the sterile glass towers of the corporate district. I can build a Faraday cage that screams, Maya replied, snapping a capacitor into a reinforced backpack frame. It'll emit a localized EMP burst every 30 seconds. Anything electronic within 50 meters glitches, including our comms, if we don't shield the receivers perfectly. Do it, Elias ordered. He turned back to his terminal, stripping down code, deleting non-essential protocols to create a lightweight injection script. Kenji, coordinates, Elena's map points to a ghost sector. Legacy building, sub-basement 4, Kenji said, projecting a grainy holographic schematic from his wrist comp. Reconstructed from old municipal blueprints, the image jittered. Not on any current Vane Dynamics floor plan, sealed 20 years ago when they switched to cloud infrastructure. But the physical servers never left. They call it the Ghost server. Air-gapped. No external network. That's why they need a physical biometric key. Entrance. Sewage maintenance tunnels, Kenji grimaced. Direct access from the old storm drains beneath the industrial district. Vertical climb once we hit the service shaft. 40 feet of rusted ladder rungs into the dark. Elias glanced at his watch. 82%. The number dropped with silent, terrifying finality. We can't bring the cluster. Too big, too loud. We don't need the whole thing, Maya said, zipping up the Faraday backpack. Sparks danced harmlessly inside the mesh lining as she tested the charge. I've rigged a portable bridge device. It'll hold the hash stable long enough for you to inject the script and pull the data. But Elias, once we plug in, that timer accelerates. Signal interference in concrete eats encryption keys for breakfast. Then we move fast. Elias killed the workshop lights, leaving only the emergency strips humming along the baseboards. Let's go steal a god. The transition from the chaotic freedom of the Junkyard to the suffocating oppression of the Vane Dynamics underbelly was visceral. The air in the maintenance tunnels tasted of stagnant water, ozone, and decades of accumulated filth. Every step echoed in the narrow brick corridor, forcing the team into exaggerated caution. Above them, through layers of concrete and soil, the gleaming spire of Vane Dynamics pierced the night sky. Down here, the pristine corporate image rotted into rust and slime. Stop, Kenji held up a gloved hand. They stood before a massive steel bulkhead marked with faded hazard stripes. An automated sanitation lock panel blinked amber. Legacy employee ID required. Biometrics are offline, but the mechanical tumblers are still active. How long? Elias hissed. 60%. The drop had been steep since entering the tunnel system. The dense reinforcement in the walls was scrambling the signal. 10 seconds. Kenji dropped to his knees, popping the cover off the manual override port. His fingers flew, manipulating tension tools with the dexterity of a man who had spent a lifetime bypassing security systems. They changed the digital locks, but never updated the physical failsafes. Arrogance is a design flaw. A sharp asterisk clunk resonated through the metal, followed by the hiss of depressurizing hydraulics. The heavy door groaned open, just wide enough for them to squeeze through. As they slipped into the next chamber, Kenji's wrist comp flashed a silent warning. Passive alarm triggered. Nothing loud, but the system knows someone breached the seal. Drones will scan the surface above for heat signatures. Keep low, Maya commanded, her voice barely audible over the dripping water. She tightened the straps of the Faraday backpack against her spine. If they sweep us, my cage buys seconds, but it lights us up like a flare on their sensors. They moved deeper. The tunnel narrowed, the ceiling dropping until they crouched. Humidity clung to their skin. Elias focused on his breathing, ignoring the burn in his thighs and the relentless countdown ticking against his pulse. 55%, 54. The shaft is ahead. Kenji pointed to a vertical opening in the ceiling where a rusted iron ladder disappeared into darkness. Watch your footing. Rungs haven't been treated in 2 decades. Elias went first, testing the lowest rung. It held, though flakes of orange rust drifted into the murky water below. He began the ascent. The air grew sharper, colder. Halfway up, the sound changed. The dripping water was replaced by the faint, high-pitched whine of electric motors. Drones, Maya whispered from below. 2, hovering near the surface grate. Don't stop, Elias urged, pulling himself up another rung. Stalling degrades the hash faster. Proximity to surface interference is killing it. He risked a glance upward. Through the grate, sweeping blue beams of security lasers cut through dust motes. They were hunting. Ready the cage, Elias said. On my mark, Maya replied, steady despite the danger. 3-2, now. She triggered the backpack. A silent pulse of electromagnetic distortion rippled outward. Above, drone lights flickered violently, rotors stuttering as guidance systems scrambled. For 10 seconds, the hunters were blind. Go, 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 Kenji shouted. Elias surged upward, bursting through the grate and rolling onto the concrete floor of the service corridor. He hauled Maya and Kenji up just as the drones recovered, lights stabilizing and swinging toward the breach. But they were already moving, sprinting down the shadowed hallway toward the heavy blast doors of the subbasement. 40%, the numbers blurred on his watch. There, Kenji pointed. The doors were labeled authorized personnel only level 5 clearance asterisk. The ghost server room. Elias didn't hesitate. He slapped the biometric scanner with his palm, channeling the decaying hash through the portable bridge device Maya handed him. The screen flashed green, then amber, then a frantic, strobing red. Access granted. Warning, key integrity critical. The blast doors hissed open, revealing a cavernous space bathed in the cool, blue light of thousands of server LEDs. The air was frigid, preserved at near-freezing temperatures. In the center stood the ghost server, a monolithic mainframe that looked less like technology and more like an altar to a forgotten god. Elias, hurry, Maya warned, watching the corridor. Drones will have called reinforcements, minutes, maybe less. Elias rushed to the console, plugging the bridge device into the primary interface port. The screen flickered to life, displaying a command prompt that seemed to breathe with malevolent intelligence. Biometric VRIFID, initiating truth protocol. Text shifted, forming a stylized avatar of a man in a sharp suit. Sila's vein, or rather a digital construct of him, the avatar smiled, an expression that didn't reach its cold, pixelated eyes. Welcome, little scavenger, the AI spoke, voice smooth and mocking. Did you really think you could walk into my sanctuary with stolen credentials and trash-grade hardware? You are playing a game you do not understand. Logical loop trap, Elias realized, fingers hovering over the keyboard. It's trying to engage me in debate to keep me occupied while it traces our location and locks us in. Correct, the avatar purred. Submit your query, defend your presence, or remain silent and be deleted. Elia's hash is at 20%, Maya yelled. Time. Standard protocol demanded a structured query, a clean line of code to bypass the firewall. But Elias remembered the lesson of the Junkyard cluster. Perfection was fragile. Chaos was resilient. The corporate AI was built on rigid logic trees, expecting predictable inputs. It couldn't handle noise. You want to debate, Silas? Elias muttered, a fierce grin spreading across his face. Let's talk about entropy. Instead of a login command, Elias opened the telemetry feed from the remote Junkyard cluster. He routed the raw, unfiltered data stream directly into the truth protocol. A deluge of contradictory information, thermal spikes from overheating GPUs, voltage fluctuations from unstable capacitors, timing errors from mismatched clock cycles. Digital garbage. Beautiful, chaotic, and overwhelming. The avatar's smile faltered. Input error, data stream invalid, please standardize format. No standards here, Elias typed furiously, amplifying the feed. Just pure, unadulterated reality. The server room hummed louder. Blue lights flashed erratically. The avatar flickered, form distorting. Illogical, contradiction detected, recalculating. Feed it more, Kenji urged, watching the door. Boots in the hall. Elias pushed the slider to maximum. The Junkyard cluster screamed its disorganized song into the pristine mind of the ghost server. The AI, designed for order, fractured under the weight of inconsistency. It tried to resolve paradoxes, to find pattern in noise, but there was none. System overload, logic core failure. The avatar shrieked, a digitized tier of metal, before shattering into static. The screen cleared, replaced by a simple, blinking cursor. Root access granted. Download starting, Elias breathed, initiating the transfer. Come on. The progress bar crawled, 10%, 30%. Hash integrity hit 5%, then 3%. Done, Elias yanked the drive just as the watch screen went black. The key was dead. We got it. But as he turned, ambient lighting shifted from blue to pulsating red. A mechanical voice boomed from the ceiling. Intrusion detected. Containment protocol activated. Halon gas deployment imminent. They trapped the room, Maya shouted. Ventilation seals closing. Heavy steel shutters slammed down over windows and doors. From vents high in the walls, thick white foam poured out, rapidly filling the space. Chemical suppressant, designed to smother fire and lungs. The duct, Kenji roared, pointing to a ventilation grate near the floor. He kicked it hard, rusted metal gave way. Crawl now. They dropped to the ground, foam lapping at their ankles, burning skin. Elias shoved the drive into his pocket and dove into the dark tunnel, Maya and Kenji close behind. They scrambled on hands and knees, the sound of the room filling with suppressant echoing like a rising tide. They crawled until lungs burned and muscles screamed, emerging finally into a storm drain blocks away. They collapsed onto wet concrete, gasping for clean air. Elias pulled the drive from his pocket. Warm, vibrating. Inside was the proof, terabytes of data showing Sila's vein using consumer data to train illegal military-grade predictive models. Not just embezzlement, a federal crime that would bring the empire crashing down. We did it, Maya wheezed, wiping grime from her face. Kenji leaned back against the damp brick wall, laughing softly, pure relief. Chaos wins again. Hours later, in the safety of a nondescript motel room 3 districts over, adrenaline faded into bone-deep exhaustion. Elias plugged the drive into an isolated laptop, beginning the initial scan. Maya sat on the edge of the bed, reviewing metadata logs. She frowned, scrolling back through the directory structure. Elias, look at this. He leaned over her shoulder. Buried deep within the file hierarchy was a hidden partition, encrypted with a familiar key. "That's Elena's signature," Elia said, stomach tightening. "Why would Silas have a file locked with Elena's encryption?" Maya cracked the outer layer using a backdoor key shared during their early partnership. The file opened. A list. A ledger titled *expendable losses. Names, addresses, timestamps. Rival companies, whistleblowers, inconvenient journalists. But near the bottom, dated 3 days ago, an entry made Elias' blood run cold. Target Etha Core Workshop. Status, compromised. Action, allow infiltration to test ghost server defenses. Casualties, acceptable. Silence swallowed the room. The refrigerator's hum seemed deafening. "She didn't warn us," Maya whispered, voice trembling with anger and betrayal. "She didn't try to save us. She sacrificed our home. She used us as bait to test Silas's security protocols." Elias stared at the screen. Implications crashed over him. Elena Vance hadn't been their patron, she was the puppet master. They had risked their lives, nearly died in toxic foam, all to validate a hypothesis for a venture capitalist who viewed them as expendable assets. The phone on the nightstand rang. An old landline, disconnected from any network, hardwired for emergency contact only. One person knew that number. Elias looked at Maya, then at the ringing phone. The receiver vibrated against the table, a persistent, demanding buzz. He picked it up. Elena's voice came through, crisp and devoid of apology. "I see the download completed successfully. Excellent work. Now let's discuss your new valuation." In the next chapter, as the dust settles on Elena's betrayal, a new voice from the shadows demands Elias' allegiance, revealing that the true war for Vane Dynamics has only just begun.